The Silk Road, the First Global Economic War. Part 1. The Ghost in the Machine. Introduction. Imagine a world before the dollar, before the banking skyscrapers of London or New York, before the internet connected our bank accounts. Now, imagine a secret, invisible thread that stitched the golden palaces of the Chinese Han Dynasty to the cold marble forums of imperial Rome. This wasn't just a trade route, it was the world's first global stock market, a 4,000-mile artery of unadulterated greed, spilled blood, and wealth so vast it could make a peasant a king and a king. Welcome back to Untold Past. Today, we are deconstructing the greatest economic miracle and the most brutal economic crime in human history, the Silk Road. It wasn't about adventure, it was about a monopoly so ironclad that empires were willing to march through hell and high water just for a few yards of shimmering fabric. In this deep dive, we reveal how silk became the first global currency, how China held the world hostage for centuries, and how a single act of industrial espionage caused the collapse of a superpower. Before we expose the price of the road, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. You're watching Untold Past. Let's head east into the shadows of history.
Part 2. The Forbidden Monopoly, the Dragon's Vault. 2,000 years ago, the East held a secret that the Western world was desperate to possess. The secret of silk. To the Roman elite, silk was like something dropped from the stars. It was weightless, it was luminous, and most importantly, it was worth more than its weight in gold. The emperors of China understood the economics of scarcity better than any modern-day billionaire. They didn't just produce silk, they guarded the secret of the silkworm like a modern government guards its nuclear codes. Exporting a single silkworm egg or a mulberry leaf was a crime punishable by a slow, agonizing execution. Why? Because as long as they had the monopoly, they controlled the flow of the world's gold. Analytical tone. China wasn't just selling a luxury product, they were systematically draining the wealth of the Mediterranean. By the time of Emperor Augustus, Rome was bleeding gold. They faced a massive trade deficit because the Roman obsession with silk was so extreme that it threatened to bankrupt the imperial treasury. It was the first global trade war in history, and the East was winning without ever firing a single arrow.
Part 3. The High Stakes of the Sands. The Middlemen. But silk didn't just float from Beijing to Rome. To reach the West, it had to survive the most lethal terrain on the planet. The Sea of Death in the Taklamakan Desert, the oxygen-starved peaks of the Hindu Kush, territories ruled by nomadic warlords and ruthless bandits. This is where the true financial architects of the ancient world emerged, the middlemen. Merchants from Sogdia and Persia who turned the Silk Road into a high-stakes, high-reward game of poker. Each time a bale of silk changed hands, the price doubled. By the time it reached the Roman markets, the markup was often over 1,000%. This wasn't just simple trade, it was a logistics empire. They built caravanserais, the ancient versions of modern shipping hubs, where religions, languages, and even the Black Death were traded right alongside spices and gems. But the most valuable commodity they moved wasn't silk, it was information. They were the world's first intelligence network, and they held the keys to the global economy. Part 4. The Great Espionage. The Fall of the Wall. Every monopoly has a breaking point, and the fall of the Chinese silk monopoly is perhaps the greatest corporate heist in the history of mankind.
In the 6th century, the Byzantine Emperor Justinian decided he was tired of paying the Persian middlemen and the Chinese emperors. He wanted the secret for himself. He recruited 2 monks, men whose names are lost to time, to commit the ultimate act of industrial espionage. They did the impossible. They trekked across the heart of Asia, entered the forbidden zones of China, and stole the silkworm eggs. They hid them inside hollowed-out bamboo walking sticks, walking right past the imperial guards. With that single act of theft, the Chinese economic fortress was breached. Silk production exploded in Constantinople. The secret was out. The first global economic network began to shatter and shift, moving the center of power from the east to the west, and eventually forcing the world into the age of discovery.
Part 5. The Digital Horizon. The Modern Echo. Today, we don't move silk on the backs of camels through sandstorms. We move petabytes of data across fiber optic cables buried in the ocean floor. But the fundamental rules of the game, they haven't changed one bit. The quest for total monopoly, the brutal fight over trade routes, and the insatiable hunger for untold wealth are still the primary engines that move our world. The Silk Road wasn't just a path through the dirt. It was the biological blueprint for the modern global economy you live in today. Thank you for walking this road with us on Untold Past. If you found value in this deep dive, leave a like and share this story with someone who loves history as much as we do. What financial mystery of the past should we solve next? Let us know in the comments below. Keep your eyes open. Stay curious.
Part 6. The Biological Crash. The Price of Globalization. Every global network has a vulnerability. In the 14th century, the Silk Road didn't just transport silk, it transported a silent killer, the Black Death. This was the first global pandemic recession. As the plague moved from Central Asia to Europe along the trade routes, the economy didn't just slow down, it stopped. Labor became scarce, markets vanished overnight, and the once prosperous Silk Road became a highway of death. The cost of human life was so high that it forced the survivors to demand higher wages, effectively ending the feudal system in Europe. The Silk Road had unintentionally rewritten the social contract of the Western world. Part 7. The Pivot to the Sea. The Death of the Overland Route. While the monks were stealing China's secrets, a new economic threat was rising in the West: innovation. Europeans were tired of the middleman tax imposed by Persians and Ottomans. They wanted a direct route to the source. This led to the Age of Discovery, which was essentially a massive venture capital project to bypass the Silk Road. When Vasco da Gama rounded the Cape of Good Hope, the land routes of Central Asia became obsolete almost overnight. The monopoly of the desert was crushed by the power of the ocean. Wealth shifted from the dust of the Silk Road to the salt of the Atlantic, creating the empires of the sea. Part 7. The Pivot to the Sea. The Death of the Overland Route. While the monks were stealing China's secrets, a new economic threat was rising in the West: innovation. Europeans were tired of the middleman tax imposed by Persians and Ottomans. They wanted a direct route to the source. This led to the Age of Discovery, which was essentially a massive venture capital project to bypass the Silk Road. When Vasco da Gama rounded the Cape of Good Hope, the land routes of Central Asia became obsolete almost overnight. The monopoly of the desert was crushed by the power of the ocean. Wealth shifted from the dust of the Silk Road to the salt of the Atlantic, creating the empires of the sea. Part 8. The Legacy of the Loom. The Modern Silk Road.
The Silk Road is not a relic of the past, it is the blueprint for our future. Today, we see the One Belt, One Road initiative, a multi-trillion-dollar geopolitical chess move to rebuild those ancient arteries. History doesn't repeat, but it certainly rhymes. The battle for trade routes, the control of secrets, and the hunger for total economic dominance are the same today as they were in the Han Dynasty. We are still walking the Silk Road. We've just traded our camels for cargo ships and our silk for semiconductors. Thank you for traveling through time with Untold Past. This story is just one of many hidden in the ledgers of history. If you enjoyed this deep dive, make sure to drop a like and subscribe. What secret should we uncover next? The world is full of untold stories. Keep looking for them. Stay curious.